In some cases, the interviewee does not wish to be recorded. You having this moment to put forward your questions or to get to know the opinions of that interviewee is fruitful. Your subject will know you weren't listening and will be insulted. Just in case you are falling short of time, in that case you need to know which questions to prioritize. And welcome to another new session of your journalistic journey with me, Zubin Paul, your journalism faculty at Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence. Today we are going to be dealing with part 2 of the art of interview, and as we have learnt in the previous session that interviews are a really important part of your journalistic profession, and today we are going to be dealing with part 2 of it. So let's just jump right into it. The previous session, what had we learned? We had learned what an interview is, and we had learned about the preparation, the research, the contacting of the interviewee and formulating the questions. Now at this stage, once you have all of this ready, like the pre-production of it, once it is ready, I had told you in the previous session that we'll be dealing with the during of an interview in this session, but in fact we'll be dealing with what to do at the interview, when you are at the spot, during the interview and after the interview is done as well. So let's go ahead with it. That means when you are at the location, arrive at the decided location well in time. Be very punctual. Again, I am saying these may seem as silly points, but these are very important and important pointers for you to remember each and every time you do an interview. Arrive at the decided location well in time. Be neat and presentable physically. See to it that all the recording equipment is working and the setup well before the interview begins. For instance, if you are having a television interview, you need to set up all your cameras, your lighting, your miking, everything has to be set well in advance and prior to the interview's beginning. So this needs to be fulfilled at any cost. The moment you get to the location, these are the things that you need to focus on. Coordinate and know the whereabouts of the interviewee with regard to their movement and their arrival. Of course, this is very important. If you just come, it doesn't do the whole deal. You need to stay in touch with the interviewee and ask about his or her own whereabouts, when they are going to arrive, whether they have left, etc., are they on their way. All of this you need to stay in touch with them and ensure that things are going as planned. This is even before the interview has begun, physically on location. Once the interviewee arrives, now the interviewee has arrived, make them comfortable by politely greeting them. For instance, they are meeting you for the first time, you need to make a very good impression, and that can be done by politely greeting them, making them comfortable, giving them that positive vibe, and just overall being a pleasant personality. Look into their requirement of refreshments if required, if they have had a tiring journey from a long distance, etc. For courtesy's sake, at least you need to offer them some refreshments and see if they need anything else on the location. Take reassurance from the interviewee regarding the recording of the interview. Reconfirm their approval. This is very important. In some cases, the interviewee does not wish to be recorded. Whatever he or she says, they don't wish that it is recorded, and they will be doing it purely on the pretext that this should not be recorded either in visual form or in audio form. But in your conversation with them prior to arriving at the location, when you are setting the date, time, venue, etc., that is also when you will have to request or inquire if it is okay to record the interview. It may be just an audio recording, or in terms of a television interview or an internet interview, you can ask if you can record the interview. Whatever it may be, whatever the case may be, you need to take a reassurance from them that recording is all right. That needs to be done, and be very, very sure there has to be some form of contract in it may be even a small message of assurance, but that assurance has to be there that they are okay with being recorded. Then set them up with the mic and makeup, etc., etc. in case of a video interview. In case of video interview, of course, you need to, remove their blemishes, remove the reflection from their face, make it very, very, presentable for the camera. That is why you need to mic them up, put the mic, and then, give them some makeup so that they look presentable on screen. That is very important in terms of a video interview. Now, that is when you come at the interview, even before the interview has started. Now, if the interview starts, what do you do during the interview? At the outset, ease the conversation in with a few ice-breaking questions. You need to ease the person into the conversation. As I've said in the previous session also, you need to make the interviewee feel at home. You need to make the interviewee feel comfortable with you, with your presence, with the way you are addressing things, with the way you are talking to the person. He or she needs to be comfortable, because, for instance, if you have never met this person in life, there will always be a certain amount of hesitance at the first go. But you need to break the ice, ask some casual questions, maybe some fun questions, maybe ask about their journey, whether they've had their breakfast, lunch, etc., dinner, whatever it is, so that it seems a little more casual, it seems a little more, in the moment. So that is how you need to have an ice-breaking set of questions. Primarily, focus on gaining the trust of the interviewee and making him or her comfortable in that situation. As I have explained, this is absolutely essential so as to extract the maximum out of the interview. As I have been mentioning, you need to make the person very, very comfortable so that the whole benefit of you being there, of the interviewee being there, of you having this moment to put forward your questions or to get to know the opinions of that interviewee is fruitful. That is the entire point of having that particular conversation with the interviewee. Next, very important points: always listen carefully to the answers. For instance, just because you will be recording the answers on maybe an audio device or on the cameras doesn't mean that you just ask the questions and forget about it. Why is it important to listen carefully to the answers is, each answer could lead to more questions or include an answer to a question which you haven't asked yet. I have mentioned this in my previous sessions as well. It can lead to more questions. Maybe you can ask a few more questions which you haven't even planned. But it will be very, very important to listen, as it could have an answer to a question which you are going to ask also, which you have prepared in your questionnaire. So maybe, who knows, the person just goes on, answering in an explanatory manner. You just need to have an ear open to know that whether my questions have been answered, first point, and second point, is there a new information that is being shared by the interviewee which I can question further into. You need to have this kind of presence of mind. This is all about the skill of interviewing, the art of interviewing. There's no science attached, but it's a very, very subjective and very, very aesthetic kind of an art, wherein you need to directionalize the conversation in a very fruitful manner. The key word being fruitful. Don't ask a question that has already been answered. Your subject will know you weren't listening and will be insulted. That is the last thing we want when having an interview, is to make the subject / interviewee feel insulted and ignored. That is why always pay heed to what the interviewee is saying, because at its essence you are there to listen to what the person is saying, and what the person says is going to be your content for the next news report that you will be writing. So always take it very seriously, yet maintain a casual form of conversation with the interviewee, paying full attention. Next one, don't read through your questions one right after another like you can't wait to be finished. Don't be impatient. You need to be very patient with the interviewee. You need to have a conversational style going on, wherein you give the interviewee enough time to understand the question and an opportunity to ask if he or she hasn't understood the question. When you are normally talking to anyone, do you go on rampantly asking questions to them? No, you wait for an answer, you wait for a feedback, you wait for them to give you a response. So that is how the interview must be carried forward. Don't be very impatient with your questions. Just in case you are falling short of time, in that case you need to know which questions to prioritize. And this priority list has to be made where? When you have done your proper research and your preparation. In that stage itself, you must know what questions am I going to prioritize over the others. So that is very important. The next one, conduct your interview like a conversation. I have mentioned this just now. This is just for your reference. One question should lead naturally into another. This is also a very, very important point regarding the order of questions that you have planned. The order must be such that it leads naturally into the next question, so that you are not making your interviewee feel very anxious about, oh, what is this topic, what is that topic. There has to be a good flow of information, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. The things must go on revealing one after the other, and that comes with intelligent sequencing of your questions. That again must be done in your prep stage, and it has to be supported by very good research. This is a very important point, and keep this in mind always. It comes with good practice, and you will be able to develop this skill over time. If you are listening to the answers, this will come naturally. Of course, as I mentioned, if you listen to what the person is saying, automatically you will get the essence of the direction in which his answers may or may not go. So then you can have the anchor in your hand and either choose to question or just allow the interviewee to answer, because they are telling things and explaining things on their own. So yeah, that is that point. Take notes during the interview. We may feel that this is a very silly point, but you need to take notes. Why? Because it will entail your thought process in it. Of course, we may have audio recorders, we may have video recorders to do all of the recording of the interview, but what is important is your thought process during that span of the interview. What questions you may or may not have, you can just jot down there in keywords and then make notes. And because these notes will come handy later on when you are formulating your article or your report, because this is going to be a very personal approach to what you have written, you need to take notes and make it a habit to take notes all the time. Next, this is again a very important information. An interviewer must form their next question based on the interviewee's reply to the current one. Again, stressing on the fact that you need to listen to what the interviewee is saying. And again, coming back to the point of the flow of the interview, the flow needs to be maintained, and in order for the flow to be maintained, you need to formulate your question, your next question, based on what answer the interviewee has given at this current time. This makes sure that you know the candidate better and progress the interview in much more efficient manner. That is very important, so that the interviewee feels confident that yes, this person is listening and this person is actually acknowledging the information that I am sharing with him or her. So that kind of a feeling is very subconsciously derived within, but This is what you need to do in order for that kind of a thought to pop up in the interviewee's mind. You need to pay attention and pay heed, pay importance to what the interviewee is saying, and ask your questions in the same manner. An interviewer shouldn't act like a ringmaster. It's a very big rookie mistake again. This is a very big rookie mistake wherein at the initial stages you may feel ki no, this person has to just answer what I am asking, nothing else. This person can't do anything else in front of me, you know. But please don't be under the impression that you are a ringmaster of the interviewee. Please don't be under the impression that you are a ringmaster of the interview. You are merely an anchor. What does an anchor do? The anchor is meant to directionalize the interview. That is all. Don't abruptly end a great discussion and merely let it become a Q&A session. Never do that. Again, we have spoken that an interview is supposed to be conversational in nature. That is when you can actually get the right and the great essence of the whole interview. You know, the good content that is associated with the interview will only come when you don't make it seem like a pure Q&A session, unless it is absolutely required. Next, also take notes on what the person looked like, what the person was wearing, where he or she sat. And if the interview is in an office, make notes of what is on the walls and on the desk. Why is this important, sir? Why does it matter? So that you later on, after finishing the interviewing, going home, you will know what kind of factors may have influenced the person to answer in that particular manner. Also, if you are writing a feature style of interview, which we'll be dealing with a little ahead in the next session, then it comes very easily that you can write these beautiful aesthetic points while including your interview points into it. So this will definitely come in handy. You never know what may happen, but always make it a point to make proper notes of your observations around you. Very important. The objects people surround themselves with hold important clues to their personalities. The objects people surround themselves with hold important clues to their personalities. Very, very important. And you will know by just seeing the kind of maybe the dress someone is wearing or the kind of bag someone has, you can definitely get to know vaguely you can get to know what kind of a person or what kind of taste that person has. So this also becomes very important in order to understand the interviewee a little better, especially when the person is right in front of you. Ask about any object that interests you. Maybe some object that the person is carrying, it may be a necklace, it may be an earring, or maybe a very fun bag or a fun belt, something. Just ask, be very curious, and try to ask about that. If they are fine with it, first point, if they are fine with it, just ask about it, so that you will get to know something much more at a subconscious level about their likings, about their dislikes, etc., etc. You will definitely find it interesting when you try to observe such things and try to implement it. Who knows, you may implement this particular point in your report somewhere. It may come handy. So always keep an eye and the ear out. You will find some good stories in these small things. Who knows, there have been instances where the smallest of things have created very good, interesting stories in terms of interview articles. So always keep your ears open and eyes open for very, very fun things around you which can be interesting. Now, we have had the interview. We are coming to the last stage of the interview. We have spoken, and now the last stage of the interview comes, wherein you need to be ultra alert. Ask if the interviewee has anything that he or she wishes to add to the end of the conversation as closing remarks. Why is this important? Because, again, you never know. You never know what the person, the interviewee, may have in mind. You may not have thought in that perspective, but doesn't matter, because you are giving the interviewee an opportunity at the end of the interview to speak his or her mind out without any questions. Like a comfort zone, creating a kind of comfort zone there, to get to know what may be in the mind of the interviewee. Sometimes, honestly, this last closing remark is what makes the whole difference for the interview. You may not even have thought in that direction, and something crazy, something very unanticipated just pops up, and it brightens up your whole interview session, Some statement that the person may have made can even become the headline of your interview article. So who knows? You never know. It is always important to give your interviewee space to speak their mind out. Exactly. You never know. This may be the seed of an interesting fact that may be the most interesting fact of your interview. And after the interview, end the conversation on a positive note as much as possible. Yes, there will be times when you will have had a very heated discussion with the person and things may have gone for a turvy, but always as an interviewer, your job is to try to pacify the interviewee, calm them down, and have a positive end to the interview. Never leave it on a negative end, because that may speak on first point, your personality. Second point, you are representing an organization and you don't want the organization to suffer because of that one dispute that may have happened during the interview. Thank the interviewee for their time and involvement. Very important to show gratitude. See to it that they are seen off in a pleasant manner. Very important. Again, you can't just say, after the interview is done, you can't just ignore them. You need to see to it that they leave the premise, leave the location in a very, very pleasant manner, and that they are seen off in a professional manner. Now, you review your notes and recordings. You have packed up, you're done with the interview, you have had a great session. Now you need to review your notes and recordings so that the next step becomes the writing of the interview story. So this is going to be dealt with in the next session. We are going to deal with how to consolidate your whole interview in one story or in one article. We're going to be dealing with the different types and approaches how to write an interview story. Until then, this is your Zubin sir signing off. Have a good day, stay safe, and see you in the next session.